We need to stop giving so much money to fossil fuels. I mean, that's a sunset industry. That's yesterday's technology. And there's no reason for public finance to be flowing to fossil fuels when we know that that's something that we've got to get out of our system.
Tom, thanks for joining us. REN 21's new report, Renewables 2022, it's fresh out this week. Can you just briefly summarize one of the key findings that you found interesting?
It's kind of a good news, bad news story that we get in Renewables 2022, in that it shows that renewables continues to be growing very quickly. For the first time, we've now reached that solar and wind power globally are at 10% of the world's generating capacity. So that's a new threshold, and that shows that things are starting to accelerate. The flip side to that is the reports just showing that we're not doing it fast enough. G20 countries provided 2.5 times as much support for fossil fuels as they did for renewables. But in Canada, that was 14.5 times more support for fossil fuels than for renewables.
We've got all of this land here in Canada. Why are we failing to keep up with our G20 colleagues who are moving ahead with wind? Any reason why wind generation in the last 5 years hasn't been as fast as other G20 countries?
It's partly about how we set up how our utilities are set up, how our utility commissions, their mandates haven't been changed to reflect the fact that we're in a climate emergency and we really need to be looking at our emissions. We need to be looking at how we can grow our clean electricity supply because we're electrifying the economy.
Tom, I also understand from the report that investment in renewable energy, funding of these projects increased for the 4th consecutive year.
What we see is companies or utilities that are involved in generating electricity, like 3/4 of the investment dollars are going into wind, solar, storage, and fossil fuels are getting a smaller and smaller proportion just because it's more expensive. You're then exposed to the world oil and gas price, and you've got an emissions problem that companies know and utilities know they're going to have to clean up as climate policy gets more stringent around the world. So yeah, that is an achievement, but we can't rest on our laurels. We really have to accelerate that, and really we should be doing it at least 3 times faster than we are.
There's growing evidence that the renewable energy transition is well underway. What often comes up, though, is how do individuals participate in this? The report is drawing attention to progress we're making. How do individuals make progress?
One thing we can do is really helpful is to make sure we vote for climate sincere politicians. We can also work with our city council to make sure the city has a strong climate policy and renewable energy policy. In our own lives, we can do things like look at how we can reduce fossil fuel use, whether that's switching to using more public transit or maybe buying an electric bike so we can commute further, joining a car share, or investing in an electric vehicle, which is going to save most people money over time, tackle those emissions. But the real things we need we need to change the policies and change where the money flows. So stop subsidizing fossil fuels, make sure our pension plans are not invested in fossil fuels, and switch to where the future is, which is renewables, clean electricity, energy efficiency, and electrification of the economy.